Hello everyone, it is the Redmen Originals podcast. With me, Paul Machin. I am joined by Steve Plunkett, by Chloe Bloxham and by Dan Clubb for this one. A big win to get our teeth into. And then we're going to move on to talk about Liverpool's midweek antics, where we are potentially vying to finish top of the Champions League. Which should it have more prominence? Should we...
You're not in the camp of giving it like a shield.
Yeah, 100%. Give it a place.
Psychologically, it's brilliant. That's about it.
Yeah, give it. I should have. This is what I mean. Give it something.
No.
Come
Reminds
on.
me of the MLS.
I'm sorry. I'm
what's
not
wrong
in.
with the MLS?
No.
So, no.
Good enough for Messi.
Nothing wrong with the MLS and Suarez. Nothing wrong with that. Just no. I'm sorry. Don't. It's. I'm just about over it being completely different. Don't add something. At least Liverpool are probably going to win it potentially, so that'd be nice.
What if it was
but
like a half-sized European Cup?
no. I'm sorry. No.
So all the ears are really small on it. So it was like small ears.
You're just
Giving
giving
small
Arteta,
ears and big
you're
ears.
just giving Arteta more ammunition to say it's a trophy
Yeah, that's
alongside
true.
the Charity Shield, aren't you?
Yeah. But also, moreover,
could
it's
be the
another thing that
first
he.
one to
It's
win
another
it.
thing that he won't
That's what
win.
he wants.
I'm all for silverware and Liverpool picking it up along the way, just not made up silverware.
Yeah.
Personally,
just
no.
If it's not a major honour, I don't want it.
It's essentially the Audi Cup.
I mean,
Not for me.
come on. I mean, I'm not. Look, I've been amongst the first and longest to laugh at the Charity Shield over the years, and I'm not saying you don't parade the Charity Shield. Of course you don't, but it does. It is on the Champions Wall.
But that exists.
Yeah,
True
but it shouldn't, because years ago they used to share it, so that really devalues the whole thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's true. But they don't.
When you Joe's Cloud, they used to share it 6 months each.
Did they?
But we said that we were talking about this
crap.
the other day, and you said it's like, oh yeah, like the Charity Shield, and like okay, yeah, it's not a trophy. No one says the Charity Shield is a trophy apart from Mikel Arteta because he's weird. But it doesn't need to be nothing. Not everything needs to be trophy shaped. The Bundesliga is a plate.
Again, I'm comfortable with the shape of things. It doesn't really bother me. It's the fact that things are things and some we've just made up. And we've just kind of made up the Champions
Liverpool
League.
Football Club exists to win trophies, made up or otherwise, Dan.
Yeah,
Come
true.
on, Christ.
I don't know. I don't like...
Somebody chose to put
don't
3
like change.
handles on a fucking cup and call it the League Cup once upon a
I
time.
don't like change.
Okay. I'm half joking. We're going to dive into that stuff later on. Probably actually more about the footy than my flights of fancy. But yeah, I just want to catch up on everyone, what they've been up to. Dan, you were at a live score event this week.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I completely forgot. I've been a busy man. I've been doing lots of things, lots of brilliant things, by the way. But I was at a live score event with the brilliant Neve Stumpeg, as you may well be known in this
Did you
particular...
not want to take a pass at the surname?
No interest in that whatsoever. No, the Patrizia. I probably could have done it, but in the moment I just thought, let's just keep things simple. She was brilliant, by the way, absolutely exceptional, really sound as well off camera, just a great girl. And John Barnes as well. I mean, needs some introduction, does he, John Barnes?
Did he rap?
He did not rap.
Wow.
He did not rap. And I was in his company for a good 15 minutes and at no point did he even mention the rap. So, yeah, you do the math on that one. Surprising.
Excellent. Chloe, you've got an abscess and you're smiling through the pain.
Yeah, I've spent many days in bed. Still dragged myself to the football game.
You did?
I did.
It was when we went back to the car, our separate cars after the match at the weekend, and I gave a little knock on the window, and you got out to give me a hug, but you had like the plastered, pained smile of someone who just didn't want to be doing anything other than lying in bed in pain.
No, painkillers and my bed have been my little comfort zone. I'd like to get back to the football. I'd also just like to get my wisdom tooth taken out, to be perfectly honest. So if they could hurry up with that and just pencil me in to get it taken out, that'd be great. But the Reds won, and that's really what mattered.
And Steve, what have you been up to?
Yeah, just work and more work for me at the minute, mate. End of month stuff. Watching footy, and that's it, really.
Having a good old time, enjoying the Reds. I've had a couple of things on. Anyone who's been watching the weekly vlogs on Mates TV will have had a little bit of an eye on these. But I did James Sutton's Mail Mind Matters podcast. I recorded that a couple of weeks ago now. My episode is out now, so you can go to youtube.com/Mail Mind Matters podcast and see. Right now, someone else is the most viewed one. There's a guy called Barry Sloan, who I thought might have been like the Sillet Bang person at first, but I don't think it is.
Scott?
Barry Scott, yeah.
Jesus.
He's got 2.2 2.5k views, and mine's got 2.1. So if you haven't gone and listened to my and watched my podcast with James Sutton, our good friend over on Mail My Matters, then please do. It's really good fun. Really deep dive into life, the universe, the footy and everything. So that's really good. And I recorded it months ago, but my guest spot on the Aldo Meets podcast with Craig Johnston has just gone live this week as well. So if you want to have a listen to me and Aldo and Peter, who owns Hotel Anfield, having a natter with former Liverpool flying forward Craig Johnston, then do go and check that one out as well. And Chris, who I'd forgotten wasn't here, played poker. Does anyone know he got on?
Came second, I think, on Friday, which has left him top of the leaderboard.
Oh, wow.
Heading into the finale.
I'm stunned he's not made more of that. Stunned.
Yeah, he's going well. He, after finishing bottom week one, won the second week, and like I say, kept himself in the round at third week, which was this Friday. So yeah, he's going okay. Give himself a sniff.
He's got a live event coming up with that. He's got to play poker in the flesh.
Right now.
That was today.
Is that where he is?
I hope I'm not trampling over anything, but I'm pretty sure it's right now.
I thought he booked it off for his missus' birthday.
No comment, Paul.
Okay.
No comment.
Happy birthday, Kat, by the way. Everyone wish Mrs. Pajak.
Good win, wasn't it? Good win Saturday.
Right, roll on. Okay, yes, Liverpool 4, Ipswich Town 1. Stig, perhaps the most comfortable week of football we've had this season?
Yeah, you'll have to see it. Couple of, just after Christmas, a couple of sticky draws, back in the saddle, winning games well. Never really in doubt, was it really? It was as plain sailing, bar the late goal, as plain sailing gets really, and lots of opportunity to control the game and not really empty the tank. It was an easy game, an easy 4-1 game. They didn't have to work particularly hard to get it. So, and it's interesting that because I watched our opponents against Manchester City and hoped that they did most of the same things against us, and they did. Their inability to get out is a real problem for them against the better team. So, it was pretty much camp your centre halves in the centre circle and dictate the game, which is the order of the day with future games coming thick and fast.
Yeah, it was. I think it was needed, Chloe. You know, we spoke last week on the podcast a bit how the misery had started to become a bit all-pervading, starts to creep into your life. And I often find doing this is that I worry more about the reaction often than actually it's already miserable enough when Liverpool aren't winning or aren't great. But we could have really done with it. And yeah, this was kind of it. I agree with Steve. Lille could have probably been we could have scored more goals, and that would have been a bit more definitive. The final score line's tighter than I think the actual game was, and I would have loved us to have had 2 clean sheets back to back. But the reality is, both those games were kind of won at a canter, and so actually it wasn't super thrilling, super exciting, but it was Liverpool just going about the business of being really good this last week.
Yeah, and like you said there, I needed a relaxing performance for several reasons, but mainly because it just felt like Liverpool had lost momentum at the start of 2025. And look, we mentioned that the last minute winner, the last minute double for Núñez against Brentford is absolutely brilliant, but you can't keep having to rely on moments like that to get you through a season. They're moments that can obviously define your season, but you don't want to have to rely on them time and time again. And we have struggled to score goals from open play at times, and people have called us boring for that in recent weeks. So I was just really glad that Liverpool sailed through, got past easily. It was nice and relaxing. Liverpool didn't have to get out of second gear. We could make the changes that we wanted to make later on in the second half. We could rest some more players, and it just was a walk in the park, and that's what we needed because we had lost a little bit of momentum. And that Brentford game was absolutely brilliant, but you can't win games like that. You can't rely on winning games like that week in, week out. So it was nice to see us playing some decent football, scoring some lovely goals, and ultimately getting out of there without actually having to get out of second gear.
Yeah, similar really for me. We didn't really break too much of a sweat in sweeping Ipswich aside, which is very pleasing. It was a fully enjoyable afternoon. How much stock you put in sort of both performances last week is a different conversation altogether, but I feel like the dominance and the professionalism we've shown in both games, actually certainly the Ipswich one, was really something to sort of take heart from. Certainly first half, felt like first half it was a joy to watch actually. Some of the football we weren't playing, I got the sense that they all looked in the mood and they all looked up for it, and that's not to say that isn't always the case, because of course it is, but it felt like every time one of the players got the ball, it was like, okay, I'm going to be the one to leave a mark on this. And I just think they fancied themselves a little bit. I love that swagger and that air of confidence that they seem to have on the weekend. I thought that was really enjoyable. And once the job was pretty much sewn up by half time, Chloe's right, you're able to knock it out of second gear and go through the motions really. And so once we realised, okay, with all due respect, this is going to be so disrespectful, we're miles better than Ipswich Town, certainly at home, certainly in the way we were playing, they didn't really have a sniff. I think they got a sense of that as well. And I was pleased man to man really with the performance. I thought everyone had a really, really good outing. I thought the centre-backs, it's funny how I think Steve said they sort of camped on the halfway line but I think that was really sort of integral to the performance as well, because they won all the duels, like all of them. Every time Ipswich looked to get out or looked to sort of build off the lap, they just weren't allowed to. We just allowed us to just pen them in and keep piling pressure on. So yeah, really enjoyable afternoon, and again, without the added stress that sometimes comes with being a Liverpool fan.
Yeah, and it was what everyone needed, and it's been a funny couple of games, because for a European night under the lights, it wasn't like this cauldron or whatever against Lille, but it never needed to be. And similarly, the Ipswich game, there was a little bit, I think at the start of the game there was a little bit of, there was definitely more passion, and not in like a huge like ground shaking kind of way, but I did get a real sense of like, no, right, fuck off, this is the league, this one matters. But actually the way Liverpool went about the business, we weren't needed. And I think what we're seeing, Steve, is that as the season's progressing, my critique in the early days of Slot was, I don't really know how to support this team, because it doesn't play in a way that gets you up and jumping and shouting and screaming and what have you, in the same way as Klopp did. But what we're seeing, I thought the Ipswich game was the closest we've seen to slot ball, if you want to give it that really boring moniker that everyone does whenever a new manager comes in that we actually played really dominant football, quite exciting when we needed to, scored some good goals, and we did it without it needing to be an absolute cauldron. And that's probably what Slot's looking for, because it's nice to have that, know that we can keep that in our pocket if we need to.
Absolutely, and obviously the Klopp thing's a roller coaster at times, isn't it? You go from elation to his aspiration sometimes with the way the games are going behind 16 times in a season. That's not an easy thing to do over the course of a campaign, but this was like the control he's looking for, and he speaks a lot about control and passages of play, and I don't think you can really not look at the performance of Szoboszlai and say that really is what he's looking for. Yeah. And if you can get that 9 games out of 10, then the game will go in the pattern that it did at the weekend. And I thought, I'm sure we'll get on to his individual performance. It's probably very pleasing for all of the things you've just said, that totally in control can sit and enjoy it for once, rather than sort of be trying to orchestrate things from the touchline, which he does a fair bit. The goal will piss him off, because that's the way he is, and that's fine, because he'll take that into the meeting with the players and say, 4-1's great, 4-0's so much better. Yeah. And that's the sort of meticulous nature of the guy. I get that from when he speaks, that this is all a piece of work that's ongoing, and he'll never sort of relent and let people get away with half measures. Yeah. So yeah, I totally agree.
I get the impression that like he almost watches them games sometimes, and he waits when there's a bad moment. He's like, yeah, I ain't gonna fucking slaughter them for this. Whether he really it's worth slaughter or not, but it's always an example of something Slot can use. When he talks so plainly about the football, pulls no punches. If there's a problem, there's a problem, and he'll
very
call
clever
it out.
in his his statement for Szoboszlai was unbelievable, broken into 3, very, very pointedly done like that. So if ever a player needed a shot in an arm after a good game of football, I'm into that management style. It works, doesn't it?
It's weirdly too early for perfection. He's a perfectionist, but if we do win that game 4-0 at a canter, and maybe Alisson doesn't need to make the big save as well prior to the goal, that is nigh on a perfect performance at home, albeit against an Ipswich side, granted. But Arne Slot then got nothing to go with in the morning when they analysed the game, or on the Monday morning. I mean, that concession of goal, albeit really annoying and not great for the goal difference, etc., is something he can go to. This 85% of the game was boss, but this bit not so, and I think that actually works in his favour in a little way.
Yeah, I completely agree on that. We'll swing back around to the clean sheet or lack thereof a little bit later on, but we'll pick up on Szoboszlai. I was going to come to him, but I think it's a good jumping in point. Chloe, he's been brilliant. The last few games, I think we're seeing the Szoboszlai that I think we thought we bought last year, that I think we got for the first 3 or 4 months of last season, and the one that's really struggled to kind of, he struggled to get to that level. I was at times a touch concerned about whether he would get to that. Curtis had a good go in that position. Harvey Elliott's waiting in the wings, and Szoboszlai's going, no, right, okay. now I've arrived. This is what I'm going to do. And it was another one of those performances. He's adding the goals to his game now, and he could have had more. He could have had more assists as well. Szoboszlai was unbelievable.
Yeah, he was, and it's a shame for him actually after that Spurs game in the league that he gets injured or he gets ill, because that is, I was about to say, that is the best I've seen him in a Liverpool shirt, and that probably still is the best. But since then, you know, he's had a couple of weeks out with illness, which we put Curtis in too many times, and you could see he'd gone too many minutes. And you were screaming out for Szoboszlai. You were screaming those games where he was missing. You were saying, well, he's the player that we actually need, and he's made himself that. We've always known his desire and his stamina, his work rate's off the charts, and it is off the charts, but it looks so much more impressive when he can do that, and you're looking at that, but actually he's got the finesse, he's got the quality, he can do the reverse passes, he gets his goal, and then, you know, in the second half, he's still running the socks off to get back. That's when it's more impressive, because you think, wow, like, he's got all of these qualities, but it's his work rate as well that's there.
Well, like work rate is damning with faint praise, isn't it? We've had Liverpool players for years. You go, well, he works really hard, and you can just hear it. That there's like, in the old days, there'd be some fella at the pub, and he'd slam his pint glass down on the bar, and he'd go, oh, runs around, I'd run around all day. Fine, we all appreciate it, but
we need the quality as well.
Exactly.
And he's finding loads of spaces. He's creating the spaces. He's breaking the lines of the midfield. He's onto second balls quickly. I mean, his goal, it's a lovely pass by Bukanate, by the way. I think he needs to get a lot of credit in that. But the way he swivels on the ball and cuts it inside, it's a left-footed shot, it's his weaker foot, and it's just got so much power on to get past. And yeah, like you said, they're the areas where you want them to be in. You saw the other day against Brentford, he just takes a shot on from about 35 yards out and says, fine, I'll do it for us. Yeah. And he comes so close to scoring a worldie. And you just need moments like that, because what he's doing now is players are not going to know whether to go touch tight to him, because they know he's got the ability to take long range shots, and he'll have a go and he'll have a crack. He's got the confidence. How many times in the past year or so have we sat there and he's got into dangerous positions and he's tried to pass the ball off instead of shooting when he should, because he doesn't have the confidence. Now you see it. He wants the ball. He's getting into those areas and he's saying, pass it to me and I'll create the final ball, or I'll create the moment of magic. And he was phenomenal for us once again.
I think like Darwin Núñez is a player, I've said this about him previously, Dan, is very, very powerful. He's a very straight line runner. He's very angular. You know, he doesn't. There's not much in the way of finesse about Darwin Núñez. I mean, there's a couple of goals I think that are outliers to that, but I worried sometimes for Szoboszlai, particularly in the shooting, that he's a bit like that. It's like you've got that thunderbolt in you. It's a bit old school Gerrard, Lampard. You know, it takes a wind up, so you can see it coming. So you've got to have tons of space to make it a reality for you. And also, those goals are so special. No one really scores. You don't score 10 of them a season. You score a couple, and everyone remembers them. But he hasn't been scoring them. But he's needed to find another way. So his shot choice has been, I think, quite poor. Yeah. Whether to pass, whether to shoot, whether to hold it, whether to drive forward with it. These last 3 games, I think, in particular, it's like he's figured it all out. And the goal at the weekend was completely unlike anything. I think, and maybe people can set me right. I can't think of another Dom Szoboszlai goal that's quite like that one. It was, and that means that, like Chloe's saying, people are not going to know how to defend him if he starts pulling things like that out the back.
Well, without a shadow of doubt, yeah. And it was refreshing to see, actually. We've definitely seen it creep back into his game in recent weeks, that confidence and the responsibility to have a go, because he's got it in his locker. We've seen that, as you mentioned earlier on, in the early throes of his Liverpool career. It felt like every time the ball dropped to him on the edge of the box, there was a serious problem for defenders, because the Villa goal, obviously the Leicester goal, was remarkable. So he's got that in his repertoire, and I feel like we did lose that a little bit as he lost his way. And obviously on the slot, pointed out earlier on the season, he's doing a lot of good stuff out of possession, the pressing side of things, but his goal output needs to improve, and we're seeing that recently. So yeah, I was delighted for him. Again, to have the decision making's definitely been an area where I think his game has lacked recently. So to then have that clarity of mind and that thought process, and all three midfielders act like they're just enjoying themselves at the minute. Like, they're just playing at the absolute peak of their powers. They're all willing to take the ball under pressure, tight areas. They've all got the technical ability, but all three of them are doing the legwork with which to allow them the opportunity to play that way. So yeah, it just, honestly, watching Liverpool's midfield three these past couple of games now has been one of the greatest things I've seen for a while.
I want to do the midfield next. Well, last point I'll stay with you for a second on this, Dan. The more you watch of Arne Slot's Liverpool, there's two ways of looking at it. I think that at some point we'll buy players in certain positions and it will make sense what he was wanting all along. But actually, someone like Szoboszlai, if you're going to play like this, I understand exactly that. That's clearly what Slot wants from that midfield position. He's now doing the absolute lot.
He's doing everything. Yeah, absolutely everything. He's got all facets to his game absolutely nailed down right now. I think that's fair enough to say. And he doesn't, he's not required to do much of defensive work in terms of like what Gravenberch has been asked of in terms of interceptions and reading the game, but he'll put that shift in for you week in, week out. There's no two ways about that. So yeah, I think he is probably in amongst that sort of upper category now when it comes to first names on the team sheet for Arne Slot, because that's the way he's playing. He's put himself in that conversation for me. And as Chloe mentioned there, if you've got it in your armoury to unleash shots like the weekend, like we've seen previously from him, and you've also got Mo Salah, Louis Diaz, Cody Gakpo running behind, like as a defender, that is your worst nightmare, because you don't know whether to go and close him down and stop that. And if you do, does he just slide Mo Salah in alongside him? Like, he is a real problem, because he's got all the guile and some of the finesse of what you'd expect like a normal number 10 to have, whilst also being 6'1", quicker than most, stronger than most. Like, that's a problem, a real problem.
Yeah, well, it's the Brentford chance where he dribbles into the box and he gets the left foot, and he doesn't quite get the purchase on it in the end, but
the footwork is
absolutely sensational. He's he's up to 4 goals and 4 assists in all comps this season, which makes him the highest scoring midfielder that we've got in all comps at the moment, which is what he should be. And this is about the idea of the bar. I think you're starting to see more and more that I think Curtis has had some really good games this season, and he's also been a little unlucky with injuries, and then obviously covering for Szoboszlai, as Dan mentioned, maybe a touch overplayed at times. But I was watching our midfield 3 against Ipswich. Caveat, yes, it's Ipswich, but on the back of 2 or 3 performances now. We put a Christmas jumper out doing best midfield in the world, and I think it was half tongue-in-cheek. I'm not sure it's as tongue-in-cheek anymore. I can't think of anything that midfield trio doesn't possess. Gravenberch, McAllister, Szoboszlai.
It's correct, and you're interested in the stats on Szoboszlai. Probably has had conversations with Slot saying they should actually be higher than they are. When you're asking a player to push into a 10 position and split the full-back and the right and their left-sided centre-back, which often Mo benefits from as well, with the ability he's got, that certainly his goal should be higher, because he's got the ability to shoot from distance. Probably Trent aside might be one of the best strikers from distance we've got in the club. That's pretty good company, isn't it, if you're talking about those two? But you're right, that midfield, you've got Gravenberch, who continues to prove that you don't need to be a destroyer to be the base of a midfield. You don't need to be Fabinho. You can end up on the right wing, and you can end up going around people, and you can see a pass. His passing's exceptional. His appreciation of the game's ridiculous. His first touch is... You couldn't compare his first touch with any of our recent, maybe a Thiago, in terms of a first touch. And then you've got McAllister, who last season kept us in a title challenge for 2 to 3 months towards the end of the year. And then now he doesn't stand out so much because the lads around him are meeting him along the way and doing as much as he's doing. So the balance in the midfield's really good. And you look along the rest of the league, and I can't see the same balance. I think there's a couple of lads who play in the Newcastle team that are very good. Yeah. But I think if they were going to upgrade one, it might be Joe Linton, and the other two are exceptional players. But we've got all, like Dan said, all facets is a good word. We cover all the bases. We've got the defensive attributes. All 3 of them have got it, but we asked Dom to be more advanced. Yeah. And yet he's still the guy who often gets to the ball first from a defensive perspective. So in terms of what we talk about, players that typify a manager, who's Klopp's greatest ever player. People say Firmino typifies everything that Klopp was for lots of reasons. I think Szoboszlai is starting to cut that cast for what Slot's trying to do.
I really like that, and it's just worth pointing out the best midfield in the world's got a very strong significance for Liverpool fans. It was a staple of the terraces under Rafa Benitez. It went through. Song. It went through. There's a couple of variations on it, but I think Lucas Leiva got his name into it eventually. But naturally. The best midfield in the world: Xabi Alonso, Momo Sissoko, Gerrard and Mascherano. So there's 4 in there. I mean, Curtis Jones, I've got no problem with throwing him into the mix. And of course, you're talking about in Mascherano, Alonso and Gerrard, Chloe. You're talking about just 3 generational talented footballers who've got their careers, now to back it up with the gift of hindsight. So I'm certain, because this is the internet, there'll be people who will just feel their blood frothing at the blood slash mouth slash any orifice. But the age these guys have got on them as well. Szoboszlai's 24, McAllister's 26, Curtis Jones 23, and is Gravenberch 22,
23 tops. Yeah.
He might even be.
I think he might be 22.
He's 22.
Still, to be honest,
yeah. He's not 23 till next season. And we're only talking about a handful of games where it's been absolutely spot on. But the ceiling of this team, Gravenberch's first season as a proper number 6 for us, a change role for McAllister, and again Szoboszlai really starting to flourish. And again, Harvey Elliott sat on the outside there. He gets into a lot of teams in this league and in the Champions League. Same with Curtis Jones.
Yeah, look, the midfield that is in the song holds a special place in my heart, and maybe that is just nostalgia.
Yeah.
And also, I didn't get to see the best of those players because I was too young. I will get to see the best of these 3 players.
Real Madrid and Barcelona saw the best of 2 of them.
I was going to say,
that was dead unfair.
That's
true. But even Gerrard, I didn't really get to see the best of him, which was dead sad. But I will hopefully be able to get to see the best of these 3 in a Liverpool shirt. And like you said there, they cover all the grounds. I mean, Ryan Gravenberch, I remember when he joined, I was so excited about him joining. And I will say this week in, week out, everyone, the pile-on, I just never understood because the quality was just there, and I just always knew, just give him time and he will be an absolute monster for you. I don't think I ever thought he'd be able to do it in the number 6 position because all of my worries were defensively, like he might switch off, he might not track the runner, he might not do this and that. Liverpool have played Ryan Gravenberch at centre-half this season, and at times I've looked at him and gone, my God, he might be our best centre-half, and he's not because Virgil van Dijk plays for us.
Centre-back and DM at the same time.
Yes.
That's how good he is.
He is a joke and he's brilliant. And the fact that he had such a tough first season, and in the second he's being taught a role that he was a box-to-box midfielder for Ajax. We got that. We knew he could do both sides. But to do what he's doing now, the pressure he's under, the way he turns, still on the ball, and he's so aware of everything around him, his interceptions, the amount of, the way he reads the game, that's not easy when you're such an attack and advanced-minded midfielder. To learn that after a tough first season when everyone's questioning you under a new manager, and to put that into practice is incredible. And for me, I understand the Sobbo point, but for me, Ryan Gravenberch is, alongside obviously Virgil Mo, the most important player for me on a team sheet week in, week out.
There's a reason why if you pick the top most minutes played by Liverpool footballers this season, they're the 3.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then you obviously add in your McAllisters, who he goes under the radar, but the reason he goes under the radar is just because he's so good, and it's just we know that's what he does. We knew what he did at Brighton, we saw it, and he carried us, and I think a lot of people are like, wow, but the way he passes the ball, the way he moves, his tenacity is what I love. I just expect that from him. That doesn't surprise me anymore. So he just floats about and does what he wants. Yeah. And then you've got Dom, who is a player who has been questioned a little bit. So when he is in this kind of form, and the player he used to be and the player he was for the first 3 months after joining us, you see the quality they have. They cover every single department. They're a joy to watch, and when it works, we are unbelievable.
I agree.
I think the system didn't help him last season.
No, it didn't. Well, that's the thing. When Chloe says that, and I'm with Chloe, I've been a big Ryan Gravenberch fan since he arrived, because you could see it in flashes. You could see he had quality within him. But for not a single second did I expect it might be a 6. I remember somebody suggested to me on one of our news shows sometime, and I was like, come on, but the 6 is different now. That's why. A Klopp 6, he probably couldn't have done. Really, you know what I mean? Because it's a completely different way of playing the role. In this system, he can do. He has the skill set. But yeah, you've all said it all there, really. Alexis McAllister is just consistent 8 out of 10 every single week now. That's par for the course. That's just what he does. And he's done it for the most prolonged period. Ryan Gravenberch didn't really do it last season. Szoboszlai did, then didn't. With McAllister, oh yeah, that's how he is. That's how he plays football.
He's now done
that
in every midfield position.
Yeah,
McAllister.
Yeah.
Because I think all 3 of them could arguably play in all 3 of them, which is a beautiful thing to have. By the way,
see Ryan Gravenberch as 10.
He could do it because they've all got an eye for goal. They've all got quality on the ball. They're all technically very gifted. All 3 of them could easily rotate, which again makes that midfield 3 as a 3 work so well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I can't remember what recent show it was, but talked about great Liverpool midfields, and we talk about Alonso and Mascherano and Gerrard, of course, but actually the midfield that won stuff, midfield that won stuff for Liverpool was Fabinho, Henderson, Wijnaldum, or, you know, the precursor to it was obviously Henderson, Wijnaldum, Milner. Oxlade-Chamberlain getting a little look in there, but functionality was order of service, and it was often critiqued as not having enough, you know, like guile or enough going for it. I mean, bear in mind,
Champions League final's the best illustration of that, isn't it?
Yeah, but also James Milner broke the record for most assists in a Champions League season, you know, in 17-18.
Doesn't he?
Almost certainly, you know. But the point is that they could do those things, but I think this midfield now can do everything that midfield could do, because it's got the determination and the grit and the work rate. I watch McAllister flying into tackles and coming away with it. Not, you know, he's got that. He'll boot someone up in the air if you need to. Szoboszlai, he's probably the one who's the weakest at that, but actually is tracking back. He's got Jordan Henderson's engine in terms of covering every blade of grass along the way, and Gravenberch is getting to that position now where he's doing the lighthouse Fabinho type stuff. But then also, just every now and again, he'll do the Thiago drop of the shoulder. He'll slalom between two men, move us 25 yards up the pitch, and just pull up another piece of magic out. And yeah, you know, if he can plug goals back into his game, which something Fabinho did have, you know, he had the occasional, you know, a handful of goals every season as well, then it's unreal. I just want to point out a super chat that we had while we were having this, just before this discussion, in fact, from Ryan, who says, big up the panel and my main guy, Steve. There you go, mate. Nice. How good does our summer window of 2023 look? Szoboszlai since the November international break has been unreal. And, you know, we've not even mentioned Endo, and I think, Dan, what we've also seen in the last handful of games is Endo coming in, and again, is he going to be a long-term midfielder for Liverpool? No. But when you consider all the press in the summer, all the stuff that, whether it was being briefed or it was a general consensus, educated consensus that the manager didn't fancy him, didn't think he fit, he's now coming into football games, and he's not just coming in for 5 minutes as like a batten down the hatches kind of thing. We're able to. He's a rotational player, but I think he's coming in and showing again the depth of quality that we've got there.
Yeah, he's definitely, for me, he's made himself a viable option again, hasn't he? Looked for a long time like he might not be that. So I've been really pleased with Maxi, and I think a lot of people are starting to change their mind on exactly what he is in terms of this squad. But the one thing you can never sort of question or doubt with Vitor Endo is his mentality and his commitment to the cause. I think we've seen that again the weekend. Good job he wears that gum shield, by the way. But his bravery is what sets him apart in the maddest way. It's such an easy tap-in of an observation to make because of the way he plays, and he throws himself into every single situation. But his determination and his willingness to fight for every single ball on the pitch is what makes him stand out for me. But yeah, again, I thought it was another really impressive cameo from him. And having been written off, I think, during the summer, and maybe rightfully so, because we were clearly heading towards a Ryan Gravenberch type 6, which doesn't suit Vitor Endo. I think every time he's been given opportunity, he's took it, really. And he shows a little bit on the ball, a bit more than I think we all give him credit for, to be honest with you. I think we're all quick to sort of pigeonhole him and say, well, he just tackles and wins it, and then that's it. But he's got a little bit I like him.
Yeah. He's confident, he's experienced, he comes in and he just does the job that's asked for him, which is great. He is the kind of player, again, that bravery and the work rate and the desire. We've had tons of footballers who had that, but it was seen as like above and beyond. Like it was something special. Like their Kite had that, you know, Mascherano had that. But it's a mark of how good the general level of squad is. I know we're in the transfer window. We'll probably touch on transfers in part 2, if there's anything to touch on there, really. But I can understand why the bar is very high, Steve, in terms of getting into that midfield now. Yeah. You know, and what is it? Luck, or is it circumstances conspiring in our favour, or is it just great training? Who knows? Gravenberch being the 6, I can't see that there's many players in world football that you could buy or could have bought in the summer, more pressingly, that would have done that job better than what he's done. McAllister looks like he's gone up a level, and Szoboszlai, and then when you consider Elliott can't get a look in, basically. Curtis Jones is now finding himself starting to be pushed out. We've got a fucking brilliant midfield, and we've got sensational depth there. It does, going back to Ryan's question, that the summer business from the season before, you can see why there was a watch and wait sort of briefing there. Yeah. Go and get the best out of these lads. We spent £150 million on the midfield. Go and make it worth 250 million.
And it wasn't something that was going to reap rewards overnight. And because of Klopp's decision to go, and then the sort of drop off towards the end of the season, people didn't really start to look at that midfield in the way that we are now. But now we've got a little bit of extra control inside and off the ball. We've got situational stuff being done in training. There's more control in the team. You get the best out of bringing 3 players in with that ability and not asking them to be Fabinho, Henderson and Wijnaldum, because we don't say get in the battle zone, go and win the ball back and give it to Bobby and then he'll trigger the Mane and Salah. It's not that anymore. They contribute so much more. It's kind of having the point you made before about Szoboszlai's work rate being Henderson-esque, but not to criticise Henderson's career or him as a person, but sometimes he needed 3 touches to move a ball, and then the things around him dissipated in front of his eyes. We've got 3 forward-thinking midfielders now that are so good in terms of front foot footballing teams. Front foot football teams is the way to win competitions. We've seen that in the modern era, certainly in the recent 2 or 3 years. We've got those players that their first thought is to get the ball out with their feet and look forward, and that hasn't always been the case. We've suffocated teams with a work-like midfield. Now we've got it's a bit more cavalier. There's a bit more finesse in it. So, and it's great. It's great to see, and we'll get more goals from those positions and solve more problems in games when teams do nullify the attacking threat. You've got these 3 lads behind. We've all got a little bit of something.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that one. I mean, Dom Szoboszlai, someone should just be saying to him, 10 goals, mate. 10 goals all comps.
Yeah,
if you can get to that, then we are absolutely laughing.
I think the 6 point, just take quick on the transfer side of things, is an interesting one because Gravenberch has clearly moved the needle on that. I think because had he not have been quite as exceptional and quite as much of a revelation as he has been, it would have been interesting to see had Liverpool gone back for Zubimendi to use him in January. But he was so good that the goalpost of what it was required to be Liverpool's number 6 had moved significantly. So Zubimendi all of a sudden wasn't being brought in to be the guy plug and play, there you go. We're actually looking maybe for who's going to come in and sort of supplement with Endo's minutes and be a backup and a long-term option there. So Liverpool may well have been interested in Zubimendi again in January. That's just you keep using him as an example. But Zubimendi might look at that and go, well, I can't play ahead of Ryan Gravenberch because he's boss. I'm not getting in that team anymore. So it's interesting how the dynamic works because I don't know whether Liverpool were completely convinced he was going to be as good as he was. But lo and behold, he is. So therefore, everything's different.
Well, lo and behold, players are not fixed in concrete. They aren't the finished article. They go in and they work countless hours, day in, day out, on self-improvement, new manager, new messaging, new system, and sometimes players flourish. And it goes both ways. There's players, Harvey Elliott's actually a good flip of the coin example that maybe what Liverpool do won't in the long term suit Harvey Elliott as a style of footballer. The archetype might be Dom Szoboszlai, and if that's the case, that it just might not be right. But actually what we could be finding now is that Gravenberch is now defined the template. That's what it looks like now. So actually when we go into the market to buy someone else who can play DM, it might be someone who looks far more like Gravenberch than maybe I think we would have expected certainly 12 months ago. AJ TTY with the super chat says, I remember when fans complained after 2023 window after we didn't sign a DM, they look silly now and shows why the constant complaining about transfers is mostly just unnecessary noise. There is a lot of unnecessary noise, and I think that just to caveat this, there've been a number of examples in recent years where we always come out of a transfer window thinking we needed one more, and often that never comes to pass, but it has come to being a defender short the season where we lost all the defenders. Now, I'm not sure having one more defender would necessarily have solved our problems. We were that short on defenders as it went. But it definitely can sort of happen. We went into a season with no left back. Milner played left back all season, was brilliant doing it. We've had the DM thing a number of times over in recent years, and Gravenberch has stepped up to the plate. Maybe he never would. He might have been another one of them players because it was in the stars. It was the Paul Pogba, what do you need to unlock Paul Pogba conversation? We might be having that with Gravenberch if he'd not found this. He could have been another lad floating around, not quite good enough for the 10, not quite combative enough to be box to box, not quite defensive enough to fill in here and there and then end up being nothing. But if it's a happy accident, then brilliant. That happens all the time in football. It's nice it's fallen. It's nice that it's fallen in our favour, really. But yeah, definitely more to come from that midfield without a shadow of a doubt. Will they be cast in that legendary mould in years to come? Well, that's up to them, really. If they keep playing like this, then absolutely. I want to talk about Mo Salah. Steve, hi.
Aye.
Mo Salah, the goal drought, in inverted commas, tongue firmly planted in cheek, is over. He scored his 100th Premier League goal at Anfield. He's just absolutely supreme. And we saw a little insight inside the AXA this week. A video did the rounds on Liverpool socials where the question's been asked, can they all sit on the advertising hoardings now and celebrate? I'm glad they didn't do it against Ipswich. There's a big moment coming in the season where our entire outfield 11 is going to sit on the advertising hoardings at the Annie Road end. And it's going to be Salah continuing to do it because, he continues to be supreme. It's a ridiculous finish.
It's a great finish. He has not been so prolific in recent weeks, but he's still contributing with assists. Even when he's not playing well, he still contributes, doesn't he, with assists and chips in with goals. And he's changed his game because he's not got the same pace he had 2 or 3 years ago, and that's obvious, the thing for him. It's a brilliant finish, just brings it down, and then it's a lazy finish, if you like, because it doesn't need to be anything else.
Swings a boot.
It's just clever. It's just the technique's ridiculous, and it's the only place you can put it to score in that position, and it's never in question, is it? And obviously he's back and running now, and hopefully we'll continue to do that. And this is where we need Mo Salah, not the Mo Salah of recent years, the one that drifts out of it a little bit for a few months after Christmas. This is where if you're going to go and put yourself up there alongside the Gerrards and the Dalgleishs in the histories of the football club and say, I'm in that conversation, you need to bring home a title from a position of a talisman position, which is what he is. If he goes and scores another 15 goals throughout the remainder of the season, wins his points and wins his games, then there's an argument to say he's very close to that conversation.
Yeah, it's 2 Premier League game weeks without a goal or an assist.
I'm calling that a drought.
I know. Wild. He did score against Lille in the midst of it as well, which is fine. Yeah, there is that thing, people talk about the January Mo Salah, and often it's because he's not here. He's playing for his country on another continent, and often, getting absolutely, run into the ground whilst doing it. No players around him to carry the burden, that kind of stuff. I'm glad that it's just a non-topic immediately. We're straight back to the conversation of what record has Mo Salah broken this week. There you go. Yeah, you're also talking about carry this on and you are winning that Ballon d'Or. I mean, Rafinha might have something to say about it over in Barca, but honestly, you are the front runner, and if you've got to January here, your numbers are absolutely ridiculous. If you can go and win a Premier League, a Champions League with Liverpool and keep up these numbers, you are going to, and look, Mo Salah, I absolutely think if you offered him a Champions League or a Ballon d'Or, he'd choose the Champions League because he'd know I can't possibly say the other option. But deep down, he wants to destroy records for himself. He wants his name in lights, and he will be wishing for a Ballon d'Or. You've gave yourself the best platform you will ever have to do it. He tried it once, and sadly he was up against whoever it was. The first season, Liverpool weren't good enough for him, and he carried Liverpool. Now Liverpool are good enough, and you are still carrying us. It is your best chance. So I'm hoping that's driving him on as well. And like you said there, look, he missed 2 games without getting an assist and a goal, but he came quite close in that Brentford game. But what he also does is he has so many shots, he takes defenders away from other players, he causes space and problems for defences because so many people go after him and just see him and track him, and you kind of forget what's left behind you. So him just being Mo Salah really helps us as well. And back to a great finish, like you said, and he doesn't even have to be in games constantly. You just know that if he's got one defining moment in a game, more than likely 9 times out of 10 he's going to take it, and he'll walk away with all applaudits every single time. I'm going to ask a question. Mo Salah currently up to 7th on the all-time Premier League goal scorers list, sliding above Thierry Henry. 176 goals. Above him in 6th place, I think we can get this up on the screen, is Frank Lampard on 177. Sergio Aguero 184. Andy Cole 187. Wayne Rooney 208. Harry Kane 213. Alan Shearer, an unassailable, you would imagine, 260. Dan, I'll ask you first.
What's in danger?
What's in danger for Mo Salah? How high does he go?
What was Cole's numbers and Salah's numbers again for me?
So, Andy Cole is 11 goals ahead of Mo Salah in 4th.
Yeah, fourth. So that's in big trouble. That's in big trouble this season, I think, potentially. He'll surpass Frank quite quickly, I imagine, with a lot less...
Possibly before we do this next.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. A lot less deflections as well, like we'll start on the way. No, I think if he carries on the rich vein of form that he's in generally, albeit, taking account of what happened in the past couple of weeks, he's on another planet, the fella. He's absolutely supreme right now. And the way he carries himself, training-wise, away from training-wise, at home-wise, he's just an absolute, like, the consummate professional doesn't do justice to what that man is. Yeah. The motivation and the striving he has to be the best possible version of himself, day in, day out, week in, week out, every time he steps foot on the footy pitch for Liverpool, is just sublime. And Chloe said that obviously individual honours, individual accolades and acclaim and records, etc., are one thing. Going down in the history of Liverpool Football Club is one thing, but I think above all else, he just wants to win trophies and he wants to win football games for us. And that's when you've got as much talent and you're as gifted as he is, all of those things combined, they're a frightening proposition right now. So, yeah, and long may it continue, certainly this season. But yeah, like I say there, I think he'll be acutely aware of what's possible this season in terms of individually, in terms of getting ahead of a few more of them big names in Premier League terms. But for us and for him, I think it's just a case of wanting to win games and doing whatever's in his powers to which to do so.
What about you, Chloe? Aguero 184. That's
how many is that away?
8 away. Yeah, 8 away.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's fine. How many goals is he on so far this season? Do you have that?
So, in terms of the Premier League, so he's got 19 goals in 22 Premier League appearances this season.
So 16 games, 11 goals, is that right?
So, yeah. So, by really conservative calculations, 16 Premier League games left to be played. If he only is a 1 in 2 in that time, he'll get 8 Premier League goals, which would be enough to put him level with Andy Cole. Is that what I've just said?
No, with Aguero.
With Aguero, sorry, with Aguero, a level with Aguero. And that's only if he goes at a 1 in 2 rate, which he hasn't been. He's not far off a 1 in 1, so far this season.
It's going to sound dead simplistic, so bear with me a moment. But it's only going to take a hat-trick and a brace, for example, to completely change. I know that sounds silly because I'm aware of what I've just said, but it does. He gets a hat-trick, he scores 2 against somebody else, all of a sudden you are looking at a very much a 1 in 2 pace to surpass both of them people.
Yes.
So, and also, we're at the point of the season now, business end, running type. And if he is as motivated and as driven as Av and Chloe have just said to win stuff and be the guy and be the talisman, be front and centre, this is his time. This is opportunity. If he does want to win a Ballon d'Or, this is the time with which to go and really make that impossible for him to overlook. So, yeah, I think with all of that blended together, chances are he gets beyond most of them names, apart from the big three, obviously.
Depending on the length of a potential new contract,
yes,
I think only Alan Shearer is unassailable.
And we look at, so what is he there to 24? Christ, yeah, 84 goals behind Alan Shearer. You need
no.
What's he behind Harry Kane?
4 more seasons.
I think we need a 4 or 5 year deal for that, which is fine, by the way.
4 or 5 more years of Mo Salah at this rate. Harry Kane's on 213. I think the and look, I'm not against this because ultimately Rooney, Kane, and Shearer. By the way, and I know our team is built for Mo Salah to score goals, but Mo Salah does play on the right wing for Liverpool,
and right back at the weekend as well.
Yeah.
Just before the goal. Actually.
Yeah, well,
yeah. In a different a different way the football is played, of course. But if he doesn't catch Wayne Rooney, Kane, and Shearer, that's no slight on him. If you can get to Aguero, that would be quite funny. I'd like him to get above Andy Cole just on principle.
Wayne Rooney aside, they were 9s.
Yeah.
Out and out 9s. Yeah. Like, Rooney's assists might stack up, but Kane's were good, I suppose, for Son predominantly, but Shearer's assist won't.
And Rooney played in the Premier League from age 16 to like age 35 or whatever as well in that. And same with Alan Shearer, longevity on their side as well. It shows that Mo Salah's go to even be marginally in that conversation is absolutely ridiculous. But you're right, it would take. You're talking. He's a contract away from being able to get above and beyond that. But there is a world where he could finish this season 4th in the all-time Premier League top goal scorers list. I'd love that. Absolutely would adore that. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below on that thing. Right, let's do a couple of little points from the match then. Cody Gakpo, Chloe. 14 all comps, 8 in the league. Do you think his form is one of the reasons why we keep seeing Luis Diaz centre forward? Because I just don't think we can go back to a world where we're rotating those two week in, week out for the left.
Yeah, probably. I think Cody Gakpo, it's mad because you know exactly what he's going to do time and time again with that little cut inside, and good luck trying to stop it because it won't. We've seen how much he loves the ball back post, and a lot of the times it does get intercepted and headed away, but when it works, we know he's got the quality to put it right where he needs it to go. He does that for Mo Salah's goal as well. But yeah, it's not just the assists. The fact that his first, he's just read the danger. He's just on his toes and he wants it more, and he's felt the ball might land somewhere in that area, and he gets on the end of the rebound and puts it in the back of the net. And then his second one, what a beautiful goal that is. I mean, a great ball, as we all know, by Trent, but the run, the header, the finish, it's absolutely sublime. And he, like we've all said there, he just can't be out the team because his form is that good. Which means that Diaz might be favoured in slots front three, but the problem is that he can't say no to Cody Gakpo right now, so he's got to find a place to shoehorn in Luis Diaz, and it's not quite working out for Luis Diaz, but as long as the other players around are picking up the slack and picking up the goals, Diaz will do all your groundwork for you, and he will create the space for other players.
Steve, there were very centre-forward goals. The Cody Gakpo scored. Very centre-forward.
Yeah, it's brilliant. The guy's absolutely superb. I think he's only 2 away from matching his best output in the season, and we're nowhere near at the end of the season for us. So it's interesting. I don't think you can leave him out. I think he's got too much. Chloe's right. It's kind of Steve Hoare always says that Robin from the other side. You know what he's going to do, but you can't stop it. But they try and they bounce off him because he's 6'4", he's a big guy as well, he's quicker than he looks as well, and his technique's absolutely brilliant, and he's really, really enjoying himself at the moment, and we're reaping the benefits of that. In terms of the competition with Diaz, I think Diaz gets the nod through the middle a bit more because he likes to make runs from deep, and when we play against certain centre-backs, they kind of want more to play against Darwin Núñez than they would at Luis Diaz, and the Leverkusen game is testament to that, where he identified Jonathan Tah as a guy you don't want to go shoulder to shoulder with, and Diaz gets himself a hat-trick. So tactically, that was absolutely spot on. Yeah. But we're not seeing that go on to the next level. So the question will always be, what does our number 9 look like in the future? But he's a good option to have because of his intelligent running from deep.
But if with the way it's working, and with Cody in particular with those goals of the weekend, Dan, Mo Salah needs to be sort of within the width of the 6-yard box to take his goals, and we're finding that more and more with Cody as well. He's, there's a few headers he's actually got, in those kind of positions. The second one's just a beauty. It's a beautiful, it's a proper Premier League goal. I
agree. Yeah, centre forward type. Yeah,
absolutely. But that's one of the things that's working. And when you've got Diaz in there, you can be forgiven not having the goal input because of the general level of work all around. But if it means that, not quite to the Salah level, of course, but Gakpo can replicate that by being a goal threat off the left, then yeah. And this is the thing when people complain at Arsenal about Kai Havertz isn't the one. Kai Havertz is absolutely fine. They just don't have a 20-goal-a-season forwards either side of him. Gakpo's starting to look more and more like he could be that.
He is. He's comfortable, getting within the width of the post and narrowing off as well. We've seen that time and time again. Now that's because he's got goals in him. He's had goals in him throughout his career. It's also maybe due to the fact he played a little bit as the centre forward for us last season, albeit that experiment never truly worked under Jurgen Klopp. But I think we are. So you sort of coin what the guy said, we are reaping the benefits of giving him a spot and just saying that's where you're going to play ultimately, because I think he got shifted about far too much of his own good last season. The midfield stuff never really happened, left wing at bits, and then obviously centre forward at bits as well, as I mentioned. But I think now we're just seeing a confident, happy, firing Cody Gakpo who's got all the attributes to be a real key part of what we're doing. But I think the Diaz thing at centre forward is acting as a nice foil. What we're trying to do is it's allowing space for Gakpo and Salah to work and to operate. How much we're getting from Diaz and what we're missing out on there is a different question. I don't think he is ideally suited to that role personally, but
it was nice.
Gakpo is.
It was nice seeing him actually pushed out there again at times, Diaz, because there's one where he goes into the box, he gets to the bar and he goes past like 2 or 3 men, and it eventually breaks down. But it's different. He's
just got that interchangeable stuff going on.
He approaches it in a different way, and we were talking about the midfield. Everyone can do a bit of everything. Well, that's nice when you've got. There's probably a world where whoever becomes the successor to Mohamed Salah probably has a bit of, they can go central and they'll go left, or more, they'll do more left and Mo can do the central bits. And it would be interesting with the next evolution of that. But yeah, it's
I think the Diaz position in him and what he asks of centre-backs can make Dominic Szoboszlai's life a bit easier, pushing into the spaces as well.
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. A couple of little points. Enciso should be sent off.
Yes.
Tackle on Endo.
Yeah, that's not football. That's a different sport, that.
Yeah, it's mad, that, isn't it? It's in a weekend of, was that enough contact to justify a red card? It's mad. It's absolutely mad. Some of the stuff that people were sent off for this weekend, by comparison to the Enciso stuff, and the fact that he then has a telling hand in. And it gets the assist, I think, for their goal as well.
Like Cena off the ropes, wasn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
There was no need for him to jump.
It's just no need for it. Full stop, I don't think, to be honest.
Yeah. And I know not to get the clean sheet. Chloe Allison, he made such a good save few minutes earlier. Like one of those. And I remember watching thinking, I'm glad he's had that. That's for all the people who've been casting doubt on Allison in recent weeks, to produce a world-class save down low, to keep it out, and then get the clean sheet. It was all nicely written, and then we fucking conceded like idiots.
We did. I don't know whether it was after that happened, or whether it was at full time, but either way, he had the ball in his hands, and when that whistle went, he lobbed that ball. He was fuming, and like you would be, you've just pulled off a world-class save, a game in which they've had nothing to do. Like, I remember they must have had a shot maybe within the 60-something minute, and he catches it instantly, dead simple, and everyone goes, it's the first thing he's had to do all day, him. And he should come away with a clean sheet, and he doesn't. And yeah, there's not, I mean, the first one's world class. There's nothing you can really do about the goal. It's really annoying, but also, like we've said there, it's something to improve on, and it's something to maybe keep digging out the players so that they keep producing the best versions of themselves. But yeah, sad for Ali.
Yeah, pity for him, but yeah, hopefully it's just a matter of time before he starts to keep more clean sheets, and everyone has that level of happiness added to their lives as well. Right, we're going to be doing more on the weekends action over on the Redmen Originals biased football podcast over on redmenplus.com. Those aforementioned red cards. We're going to be talking Arsenal, we're going to be talking Manchester City, we're going to do a bit on transfers, and Manchester United have somehow managed to convince the Labour government to basically build them a stadium, which is a slight exaggeration, but yeah, we'll discuss that on that show. If you want to get it for £2, in fact, get an entire month of redmenplus.com for £2, full access to everything we do over there. Head over there, choose a captain tier subscription, and use the code BIASED, BIASED. Nailed it. Before Chloe asked me. Yeah, fill your boots on that one. Short run offer. So if you want to go and try everything we do over there, get those shows for next to nothing, then use the code BIASED. Right, short break from us. When we return, we're going to be chatting PSV Eindhoven, Liverpool squad strength, and perhaps a little bit on transfers as well.
The eyes look terrible. I'm going to blame the person though in the picture because they're squinting a bit.
I really have a deep respect for this person. It's added a level of pressure.
Feeling like you belong somewhere, I think that massively helps you. I probably wouldn't be if it wasn't for you, so thank you. Fake it till you make it. Like, that's one of my favourite sayings.
We are 5 minutes from the end. Now is the perfect time to panic.
I could sit here all day and do this and it still wouldn't be finished.
Yes, welcome back. Regular viewers to the podcast or listeners will know that I've been hosting Axe's Player Portraits show this series. So a little bit behind the curtain on it is that we filmed a couple of pilot episodes to kind of get a feel for the format before we unleashed it upon the Liverpool squad and players. And that one of those, which we recorded, was with Liverpool fan, big friend of the show, Courtney Neary. So if you've watched me critiquing Liverpool players' painting skills throughout the season and would like to see what happens when the shoe is on the other foot, do check it out. It's a great chat with Courtney, of course, about being a Liverpool fan and the stresses and strains that go with it and some of the challenges she's faced along the way. But also, whilst I'm trying to conduct the interview, whilst painting a picture of a Liverpool player that I highly respect and did not want to make a prick of myself by ruining. The link to that will be in the description. Please do go over to the AXA UK YouTube channel and check that one out as well. I know ultimately it's not as big as seeing Andy Robertson and Cody and Curtis Jones and Marie Herbinger and co, who we've done on this first series so far. But yeah, do go and check it out and use the comments section and tell them that Redmen sent you. Say you're here for Paul's painting. That'd be much appreciated. Yeah. Anyway, right. Okay. So let's about the squad first. We'll ease into Eindhoven and then we'll see what time we've got left. Steve.
I think Eindhoven you can waste 2 minutes on max, to be perfectly honest. That's what this
Paul's
half
going.
of the table...
Don't say that. Paul's going.
Oh. No, I'm still saying it. This half of the table, we can give you our thoughts within 2 minutes.
Well, no, okay. Well, you know what? Because I think it's an interesting conversation. I think it's an interesting conversation regardless, because it is fascinating when you think there might be rotation, Chloe. But I will stick with you on it because you're clearly very opinionated.
Yeah. I am.
Given who we've had in recent weeks, given the scorelines and the amount of rotation off the bench. A week ago, I think we were here going, fucking whatever, we'll just play the kids in Eindhoven. There is no chance we're putting a mad... I don't think we're going to play a mad weekend team here. I think it's going to be a surprisingly strong team for this.
No, it won't be because it's slot, but I want it to be a very weekend. I do not care. I don't care if we finish first. I don't care if we finish second.
Don't you want to win
the Watch yous play.
New Lilias, that's what it's called.
It's going to be a Diego Jota Midtjylland all over again. No, just...
You're the worst for jinxing stuff. You've just said that.
Sorry.
Why would you put that out into the world?
Because you can play the likes of Harvey Elliott and that. It can still be a decently strong side because of the squad depth that you've mentioned there. But have no first team players anywhere near this squad. I do not care if we finish first or second. Wow. I don't. There is hardly any difference to me. You're probably going to get the likes of Real Madrid or Bayern Munich or someone else anyway, because they're all crap so far this season in the Champions League. And other people may think differently, but I just don't. The Premier League is just bigger right now. It's more important. You're already qualified. You're going to finish first or second. And I'm sorry, but Bournemouth is a massive game of football. They've battered Forest. I don't even remember. Newcastle they've had in there. They are so good.
Underlying numbers FC, Bournemouth.
Turn into numbers FC recently.
Love watching them. That is my main focus this week. It is Bournemouth and making sure everyone is fit, available, ready, rested to go for that game.
PSV Eindhoven stay top of the Eredivisie. 4 points clear of Ajax. They have a game in hand in that one. Arne Slot's nemesis. So there'll be something in that. And I get Chloe's point. I really, really do. I really wish she hadn't said the Jota Midtjylland thing, because that's going to make everyone feel bad when that inevitably happens. But we're primed. He can do what he wants, and he's earned the right to do what he wants with this one. And whether he wants to keep players in rhythm or he wants to give some real chunky minutes to some lads who maybe haven't had it, that's on the table. But the reality is, because of the way we've been able to use the bench this last week, he could play his best 11 in this game if he wanted to, and it wouldn't be the stupidest thing anyone's ever done.
And I think he will. I think we go to Bournemouth at the weekend, being absolutely the best team in Europe.
Yeah.
Is a big fill up in terms of attitude and psychology of it all. Yeah. And I think he subscribes to the same thing that the Klopp coaching staff did, that 2 or 3 games in a week with the same bodies, you gain momentum, you gain intensity, you gain focus from those things, rather than having people sat on benches watching. It's not important. I know we had the conversation before and a laugh about potential trophies for finishing top of it, but if you go through that perfect, and you're right, all the wins all the way through, you come back to prepare for the weekend game, and you get an imperious feel about yourself, because you are without doubt the best team in the Premier European competition, and there can be no argument to that. So,
Go on, Chloe.
Can I just say something? You can do all of that without playing your starting 11.
That is my point.
you might not.
What are we talking about? I'm not saying play a bunch of fans who've never seen 90 minutes before on a football pitch.
What team are you doing, Chloe?
Like,
What team are you saying?
Have a lovely time up
You can
top.
do Bradley, Simicast, Quansah.
Yeah.
You still name a strong team
You can still
without...
name a very strong team.
No, I want to hear Chloe's team that's got no first teamers in here that still allows you to beat PSV.
Okay,
I mean, Ali's having a
out.
tough time, so I don't mind if Ali starts, but also in my head, he's getting injured at some point again, so maybe you can switch Kelleher, but I'm going to go Ali.
So Jaros in goal.
Yeah, Jaros. It's Bradley. Yeah, you with me? Quansah fit and available?
Yeah.
Lob him in there. The other centre-back partner, like Virgil will have to start. You might be able to switch him out. 45 minutes each, we've done that before. Okay. Costas, Wataru Endo, Harvey Elliott, where's Curtis Jones? Not available, no one in yet.
Very much doubted, yeah.
Come back to me. Tyler Morton, that's him. There's
Trey.
my midfield three.
Wow.
Trey and Johnny can go on bench. Fine with that. Now, me up top, Darwin Núñez. Have a go. Chiesa, I'd love to see Chiesa. Whether I'll see Chiesa is a different matter. He doesn't like to start games of football.
I bet he'd love it, but yeah.
And on the left,
You've got a problem here.
we have got a problem. You can either rotate Cody Gakpo or Luis Diaz.
Jaden Dan's up front, Darwin off the left.
I don't like it, but also I don't care. So yes, sure, whatever.
Disrespecting the
I'd
competition.
like to see Jaden Danz. It's the Champions League. I get what do you mean disrespect? I've just named a decent lineup.
It is. It's funny that you're not. You're right, because that's still a pretty good 11. I don't know, and if anyone wants to try and gauge this for me, because I've sat here many a time and slandered Serie A, right? Mm-hmm. With my full chest.
Yeah.
With my full chest. But I don't know how good the best team in Holland is, and I don't think.
Oh no.
And I'm not. Look. On their ground, look, we went to Girona and made hard work of it. We rotated a little bit for that game. Where are? Let me get the table up.
They're like, I want to say 18. I think we could end up playing them. Like 18th or 19th, I want to say, something like that. So they're in and around.
So PSV on 19th.
There you go.
That is 1 point away. So they're 3 points away ahead of Manchester City, who are in 25th at the moment, outside of the playoff round places. Now, there's a number of clubs. So beneath them are Club Brugge, who are actually the team that were playing Manchester City, so they could have a telling impact in that, of course. Benfica, PSG, Sporting, and Stuttgart are the other teams. So what I'm saying is there are a lot of teams there that would need to all win to potentially go up, just to go above PSV, let alone the ones that are outside of the positions. So maybe they don't need to go whole hog for this themselves. They have got a league title to win.
They want to be sure of their place in the next phase of this. I would imagine. I don't sort of countenance them making wholesale changes and then being weaker. Certainly not at home. Certainly not with something riding on it, some jeopardy. So that's not really coming into my thinking. I'm quite torn between the two guys' perspective, really, because as much as I think we should rotate and rest some big hitters, I think we have seen Slot certainly from the bench more recently. He's been a bit more protective of Gravenberch and stuff like that. So much of this will depend on the medical department, of course, and who's close to red lines and all that sort of stuff. So I'll have all that information, of course it will. And again, this has given opportunity to basically carte blanche, do whatever he wants with his team selection here, which is a joyous position to be in heading into the final group game. One thing I don't think should come into his thought process is prize money. I've seen a lot of people pre-Lille talk about how much you win for winning the game of footage, whatever. Listen, it's fine, happy days. I've seen that we'd earned some like a decent chunk of money basically thus far, which is great. Happy days. Don't give a shit. Much more interested in Liverpool's fitness and Liverpool's momentum and rhythm. Yeah,
I know we're in that world where it's like, they need money because they don't have, maybe Liverpool have got no money and blah 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 blah.
Nonsense.
2 million quid or 3 million quid. Or
seventh in the Deloitte Money League last week. We're doing okay. We're not short of a bob or two, and I know that might anger some people, but it's true.
It's a different thing altogether.
It's factual. No, it's factual though. Whatever. But yeah, I love the psychology element of being that, okay, nobody can touch us, we're perfect in Europe, look how boss we are, go in there with feeling 10 foot tall and all that sort of stuff. Love all that, completely bought into that. But I've still got that inbuilt fear of like, but we've seen a lot of minutes in a lot of these lads. Like we're talking here, if we go strong, we touched upon it earlier very briefly, how much Van Dijk, Salah and Gravenberch in particular have played. You've got a golden opportunity there to not allow them to even travel to this game, really, and still be very strong with it.
Cool.
You don't see it.
There is no world where Mohamed Salah's not playing this game.
He wouldn't have it.
Because it fucking counts as a game of football towards winning the Golden Boot and winning the Ballon d'Or and all that kind of stuff.
I'm not sure this one does, personally.
I mean, it literally does.
No, but in terms of
literally 100% does.
When it all comes to all the counting in that sort of conversation further down the line this year, no journalist, no self-respecting journalist, is going to look at that and go, yeah, but he scored twice in the Philips Stadium against PSV.
From the group.
This game, what would be more important is having a fit, fresh Mo Salah come the semi-final and final. That's a more important.
No, and I'm all in on that. By the way, I'd love that to be the case. I mean, just actually looking at his goal return this season in the Champions League actually isn't even stupendous. Really, he's got a lot of. He's only on 3 goals in the Champions League, and maybe that might be a driving factor behind it.
Is it worth the risk? Really?
But I mean, if it wasn't, if risk was a consideration, we could have subbed him off in any number of games this season. At any point, in any
Saturday
number
included,
of
yeah.
Exactly.
Flip it. I mean, never played in the Europa League group stage much, did he? He'd come off the bench a lot into and then he came off on against Lask and scored twice for the fun of it towards the end, like whatever. This, to me, feels like, again, you've worked yourself into a position whereby the top 2 is absolutely secure. Doesn't matter which one you finish, makes no odds whatsoever. Be nice to finish top, be nice to go perfect record, be nice to go and beat them full stop, whatever. But if you ever want an opportunity in a game of football, because the Carabao Cup isn't that, Plymouth is that in the FA Cup, granted, but Arne Slot has managed to navigate us into a position whereby we're so well placed we can rest Virgil van Dijk, Mo Salah, Ryan Gravenberch and others.
Can I ask the associated question with this then? Does anyone honestly see Federico Chiesa getting a start in this
over
match?
Salah on the right?
I just mean in general, mate.
I do, yeah.
Do you? Because again, we've been saying this now for it's fucking nearly February, Dan.
I'm aware. I've been more frustrated than most, but kind of, and the Plymouth game is still nagging away in my thought process here. But if not now, when? It's kind of the point. You know what I mean? Again, all of the things we've just said about.
He didn't even play the FA. He didn't even start the FA Cup game.
No, that was a thing. He came on half time.
It was a thing.
It feels like I don't think he's done a 60 yet. So what I'm about to say is made inaccurate immediately. But he's been building up to this.
He hasn't.
No, hang on.
He hasn't been building up to this at all.
He's been more involved than the first. 2025 has been
more
better.
match day squads.
Yeah, more match day squads. We've literally seen him, so I feel like it's due. Maybe, I don't know.
So a caveat to that is when we've all talked about this, final words and podcasts. When we make changes in games, we sometimes lose control because we've got unfamiliar characteristics on the pitch. If you start a game with lads who haven't played with each other before, because we're so process and situational driven, I don't know you get the same control out of a game like that where you make 8 or 9 changes.
No, I'm with you, but the same they work it out on the pitch sometimes. They problem solve. Listen, we're in the Carabao Cup semi-final. Well, hang on, we're in the Carabao Cup semi-final. We're using this squad, not this first 11. This squad, like Tyler Morton comes to this conversation with Tarwendo, definitely comes to Harvey Elliott.
He's played more minutes in the EFL Cup than he's played in any competition.
Quansah definitely, Bradley definitely. Like there's some whereby you haven't got a natural understudy. For example, Virgil van Dijk. That is the one position whereby you go, I don't know what that looks like if it's not him. Because all of a sudden, and everyone knows how much of an advocate and how much of a fan I am of our academy system. You go to a Marinallo, and that feels crazy for me to say. So maybe it is Van Dijk. You know what I mean? But in a lot of positions, there's somebody where you can just sort of straight swap it and go, the drop off from Gravenberch to Endo is obviously a drop off, but for this game, fine. That's where I'm at anyway.
For what it's worth, Chiesa has played a grand total of 25 Premier League minutes this season. He's played a grand total of 16 Champions League minutes, 104 in the League Cup and 45 in the FA Cup. Against Accrington.
Just shy of 200.
It's an improvement.
190 minutes, according to Transfermarkt, in all comps this season. So he's not. This is not like. It's so frustrating and it's so hard to fathom because you're meant to come back into training, then you get 5 minutes. Maybe if it's been a big one, you get 15 minutes. Then you get half an hour. Then you'll get 60, and then you can play 90s at will. In the Premier League this season, he wasn't in the first 2 matchday squads, obviously. Gets 18 minutes against Bournemouth, gets a muscle injury, isn't back on the bench until Fulham in game week 16. There's an unused sub or not in the squad between game week 16 and 21 against Forest, which was the other week, on the bench in the 1-1 draw. 3 minutes against Brentford, 4 minutes against Ipswich.
You know what?
So if nothing else, he's in line for 5 minutes in this game.
Those 3 minutes against Brentford, though.
What a 3 minutes.
What a 3 minutes. He had so much fun in those 3 minutes.
Doesn't get better than that. What a 3 minutes.
Yeah. The most minutes he's played in a game of football for us this season was 59 against West Ham in the third round of the EFL Cup. And that was in
He got an assist
September.
in that.
Overhead kick assist, I'll have you know as well. Yeah.
September. And I'm not doing this to slight him, by the way. It's just my point on rotation. In my head, I don't know how you go from playing 4 minutes to playing 60 minutes. You know what I mean? Like that.
But he's done it all off kilter to what we'd expect. So there's nothing there in the trend or the numbers or trajectory of minutes to say he can't do it, because it feels like his whole season skew off a little bit. He had a pre-season in October. You know what I mean? Like everything about his season has been weird. So why not?
It's just, what do we want him to be? And at the moment, we seem to be quite content with him being the fifth substitute if we fancy just, taking someone off as a precaution right at the end. That's where he is, and that's all right, but he needs to start being more than that. For me, I have a dream, and this is not a big dream.
Go on, Nelson.
I just want him to be Leandro Trossard last season or the season before. When he signs in the January for Arsenal. Yossi Benayoun, a guy who is not necessarily going to play 90, but he can do a 60 every now and again, and actually he's capable of scoring a goal in a big game of football for you. He should be good enough to be playing week in, week out for us. But that feels like that's a leap from where he is right now.
Better than Trossard as well, mate.
Yeah, but Rio Ngamoa gets the look against Accrington. Jayden Danns comes off the bench before him at the weekend.
Midfield.
I mean, again, Chiesa can surely do that. He's definitely done that, in his career at a much higher level than Danns has done it as well. Okay.
What would your start 11 be?
What mine and what I think will be different.
I want what your is.
Yeah, you haven't really said which side you fall on here. It's a good point, actually.
Take the fact that you're going out of it, please.
But me going's irrelevant. I'm happy to see us play a mad team because it's just fun. So I don't care. I really don't care in that regard from my own personal experience. I'm not like, I've travelled all this way. I demand 90 minutes of Mo Salah, otherwise I riot. No. There is a case for maybe putting Endo in for Van Dijk at centre half, but then that has a knock-on impact to the midfield. And I think at least one of our three starters from the weekend will start in midfield, and McAllister would likely be that. I think whether Endo starts in midfield or it's Gravenberch. I think it'll be like I think it'll be 4 changes. Is what I'm saying. I don't think it'll be wildly sweeping. I'm kind of fine with that. Keep going. Just keep playing football. It's not going to stop. We're going to keep playing football forever and ever and ever. They can all have a week off against Plymouth if they want, and if we happen to get knocked out, I keep saying it, it's not the end of the world, to have a handful of less fixtures to play when you've got big stuff to play for. I just want to finish top of this table. So do I, but I still think you can do that with making changes.
I agree.
I think it's the other way down, though. It's the forever, and I've always been that guy who goes, "Bah, play the kids," and you can bring the reserves, the cavalry on if you need to go and get a win. But it does feel more like we'll do. Van Dijk will get 45, and Gravenberch will get 45 or 55 or 60, and then you kind of work it from there. Who knows? We got more chat out of that than I expected. Well done, everyone. But the point is, Endo, Elliott, Bradley, Nunes, Chiesa have all figured. Danns have all figured in recent weeks and actually could all potentially be in line for a start here. And rather than get upset about if we go too strong or if we go too weak, Slot can do what he wants. And ultimately, and whatever he chooses to do will be right until Chloe jinxes it with the midget land shout. Transfers, Dan Club. Hello. You probably have been ear to the ground on a bit more of this than most, apart from everyone on Twitter, obviously.
That's me as well, to be fair. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The transfers, obviously, by the time we're back for the podcast next week, the transfer window will
be deadline.
Will be shutting. Liverpool have moved late in windows before.
Yep.
It's been really quiet. Like, even for like rumours, it's been really quiet.
Eerily, I would say. There's been the odd rumour. The Kvaratskhelia was one for like a day until it wasn't. Until he basically was holding up a PSG shirt. Yeah, that felt like very in keeping with what Liverpool have done in the past in terms of the opportunistic. Liverpool like a player. Liverpool have had a player on their radar for some time. Another club's going for him. Shit, let's do something. Obviously never materialised for various reasons, which we'll find out in due course. In terms of right now, there's only one name that immediately springs to bell, and that's Javel Hart. He was there at the weekend, so that set tongues a wagging. He was at Anfield watching our win over Ipswich, which is interesting. He has been linked prior to that. Inevitably, post-attendance, he's now linked even more so than ever before. Literally, first thing I've seen this morning was Liverpool accelerate plans for Harto. 18 years old, left-back. Centre-back come left-back, and that way round as well. I think a lot of people have gone, well, he only plays centre-back. That's just not true. I think he exclusively played as a left-back this season. Capped by the Dutch national team already. A lot to like there. Obviously, Ajax, so Arne Slot will be well-versed on what he does and doesn't do. Yeah, he's an interesting one. The profile I quite like, the player I quite like, the position is probably one we need to be looking at, I think, longer term. Whether something happens this month remains to be seen. Again, that feels like one. If there's other suitors out there and they want him now, maybe Liverpool will act on it. Yeah. Aside from that, I think the window's going to come and go without much in the way of action. Probably see a few loan exits between now and deadline passing, but it would take something seismic for us to act on. So I think Gittins is another one at Dortmund we do quite like. There's other interest in him. I think like Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. Jamie Gittins, young winger, good, exciting, 20 years old. He's one Liverpool seem to have identified. I think if Munich were to swoop now for that, then maybe we'd act. But outside of that, I think we're quite happy with our lot, really. And why not, I guess, you know what I mean? So, a watching brief for Liverpool, it feels like.
The opportunistic thing, it was the buzzword of the summer, stay, and that's how the Chiesa deal kind of comes about. We know Liverpool went for Supermendy. We know they went heavy for Caicedo the year before. So it stands to reason that if something became available, regardless of the price, if it's the right player, there should be a chance for it. But it does come back to the squad. Keep talking about this. There's players, I don't think there are any holes in the squad. That's my opinion. Whether everyone shares that, I'm not entirely certain. But I do think there are upgradable, and there are, and to varying degrees of how easy it is to upgrade. And I think you can upgrade our squad players quite significantly, if you really wanted to. But it's a dangerous game when you do that, because you just replace, unless you get better than your first 11, you just basically buying more lads who aren't playing footy for you, which is a hard sell. I don't know. I'm not sure who on the market is going to crop up that's going to be the player that Liverpool bite at. We've got a fantastic history of moving for footballers in January, almost more than like Summers in some regards. You think back to, I go back to it, Gakpo's and Diaz's and Van Dijk's and Suarez, Sturridge was, Coutinho, January transfer signings, Ozan Kabak. How dare
you had two, didn't you?
Yeah, it's feasible because Liverpool have got a historic track record of making moves in January. But again, just to echo Dan's point, it just doesn't feel like it's going to be something that they do.
No, and you talk about opportunistic. Gittins is the main talks of 100 million euros as his transfer fee. That's kind of the numbers coming out of German media right now. Nori, they want 70 million for him. Kerkez has allegedly been on a podcast and said, look, I'm not going to Liverpool, so that might be dead. And that's another 50-60 million pound signing. So the lad who came and watched the game at the weekend at 30 million, I think the number bandied around is, makes a lot of sense. I think at this moment in time, maybe Slots had more answers than he expected from the squad in terms of where we are and what we're achieving. Longer term, I think we've all got questions about what does it look like through the middle up top. That will be probably the one that gets addressed in the summer, because as much as we love Jota, you just can't keep him fit. And if he was fit all the time, that would be your answer. And there's obvious questions about Darwin. And then we probably need to add one to the defence. So if the opportunity comes to sign the lad from Ajax at 30, at 18 years old, and he spends the rest of the season understudying, that's a shrewd move. Yeah.
It's just funny, isn't it, Chloe? Because damned if you do and damned if you don't. If Liverpool was to go into the market now and pick up a 19 to 23-year-old left-footed right winger with loads of pace to burn who looks like he's got a real eye for goal, people would be made up that we're signing someone in January, but that would almost certainly be saying Mo Salah's not getting a new contract. So, like, yeah, that's the sort of how hemmed in, the emotions are with the January transfer window.
Yeah, it is. Or can I offer you a different thing? Mo Salah signs like a year or two deal, and this is actually his understudy who we've just signed quickly, so that in a year's time we don't have to go and spend 80 million on this Redmen. It is too logical. I've gone too early there, sorry. But yeah, look, I think everyone would... transfers are just exciting, so everyone would love for a new player to come in, and also, I've said it before, it's a kick to the teeth for other teams like the Arsenals and that, to look at you being so good, and then you add another player who they might think's a superstar. It can do that, but like you've said, there are places in the team which can be upgraded. Left back for me is a major one. However, like we've mentioned, the top of the table with Robbo and Costas. If we can keep, it's not if we don't sign a left back, you might not win the league. It would certainly help us in my eyes, I think. But I don't think there's a position where you can say if Liverpool don't win the league, it's because they didn't sign that specific position. So yeah, it's one of them where it'll be a silent window. We'll go to the summer and hopefully more exciting things will happen then.
It's just this though. I think the underlying lingering fear, Dan, with transfer windows is actually not even about the here and now, because there's definitely people going position of strengthen from a position of strength, and I get that, and I don't disagree with that, but I also think you can actually improve from your current position by just putting more minutes in the legs of lads you already own. Conor Bradley, Chiesa and Elliott, if they only play double the amount of minutes they played in the first half of the season, or by choice and not through injury to other footballers, we're going to be loads better just for having that. It's that while the contract stuff rumbles on, while the lads who are next on the rank to need contracts, which is going to be something that needs to be addressed in the summer, which is like your Canates and your Diaz's and co. There's a lot of footballers in the next 2 or 3 years who are going to need new contracts. I'm worried that we're going to leave ourselves with so much business to do in the summer. And so actually, is there something that can be done here that mitigates against the worst case scenario happening with the contract? So again, can you go and get the Mo Salah understudy? Can you go and get another fullback? Can you go and get whatever, a young centre half who's ready to step up?
No, absolutely. Yeah, I come back to your earlier point on the Mo Salah understudy. I think the panic that sets in throughout the fan base would sort of push back against any benefit we had from signing that player, because I do think there is a benefit we had in doing.
We don't want you.
Yeah, exactly.
More.
Because the writing would obviously be on the wall if we signed that player. So yeah, I'm with you entirely on that. I think there is a particular position in the squad, not necessarily certainly not the first 11, whereby there is an obvious sort of stroke upgrade to do, and that's the understudy to Ryan Gravenberch, and that's not Wissawa-Wendo, by the way. I think Wissawa-Wendo needs to stick around for the remainder of the season. I think he's a very valuable member of the squad. For me, it's actually somebody we've seen very little of, is Tyler Morton. Yes. He leaves on loan. We go and sign somebody of a similar age in the profile to come in and take some of the minutes off Gravenberch. That'd be my only real go and do that now, because you're in a position to do so. That'd be the one. Because I think, as you touched upon earlier, I think Endo will leave in the fullness of time. Therefore, you're going to need to do that anyway at some point. Gravenberch can't play every minute for the rest of the time. Yeah. So go and get the guy who's going to be with him, sort of thing. I think that's possible. But other than that, I don't think there is much you can do, because January, sort of players you mentioned earlier aside, is notoriously a difficult window to do proper business in. Normally you're panicking. Normally you're down the bottom of the tables trying to fight for your life. You need to go and do whatever you possibly can. Just Manchester get bodies City through the door. Yeah. Or your Manchester City, yeah. No, we've absolutely shit the bed so far. So yeah, it's a difficult one. I think I would love to sit here and say, Liverpool can do sort of the nice cosmetic surgery to this squad that I think it does require. I think there's a left back, there's definitely a centre forward conversation. There's also a centre back conversation to be had. They all feel like they're summer business to me. I think we're happy with the left back situation. I think we'll get by on a centre forward situation right now. I think with more time, not just a condensed 4.5-week period, which this is, with more time, with the season, with Arne Slot having a full year with this entire squad, he can really assess what he does and doesn't like about it. Then the landscape's slightly different. Then Richard Hughes, Michael Edwards, Julian Ward, Arne Slot, et al. Can sit down in June and say, this is what we've got, what do we need to do? And then the summer, I think, will be busier.
I'm just not looking forward to one of the contracts getting announced on the 1st of February, having not signed anyone, and they go, there we go, that was it. And all,
there's the money.
Shit show. What, just on the DM thing, so Endo's played 487 minutes, so just shy of 500 minutes so far this season, all comps. Tyler Morton's played 221, which is more than Kaiser, by the way. So you're looking at around 700 minutes of football, theoretically, there. Now, that can improve, because Gravenberg's played a lot in 90s, so actually you could probably... it'll be a tough balance because you haven't got the early rounds of the League Cup to factor in anymore. There's nothing but really meaningful football matches. You might get a couple more FA Cup games if you get through Plymouth and you get a favourable draw or two to follow. My point is on the DM thing is that what are you buying? Are you buying someone who's better than Ryan Gravenberg? Because if you're buying someone who's better than Ryan Gravenberg, do we want to live in a world where he's not our first choice number 6, having gone through what we've gone through? Look, he might get moved up to the 8 and 10, and then he's fucking even better. That's how good a player he is. I don't know, but that's the conundrum with this, because I do see that the Endo thing. You can upgrade Endo as much. I don't think it'd be tough to upgrade his experience and the determination and the kind of player that he is, but you could. But like as an example, is Zubimendi gone? Is he gone to Arsenal?
Heading to Arsenal in the summer, by the looks of it. Yeah.
Let's just use that as let's just say that's there. Would you try to hijack the Zubimendi deal, knowing that you'd probably then have to let Endo and Morton go this window? Would that be? And
not
then,
for me.
But then you've got that situation where where's his football?
Exactly. I think it's a much harder sell to Zubimendi now, because you're not asking him in the summer. You're asking him to come in and be the guy.
We've got an empty space for you here, mate.
Go and do this. Gravenberg. We've seen a bit of it in training, a bit of it in pre-season, but he hasn't done it over any prolonged period yet. So we need you to come in, plug and play. This is what Arne Slot likes. This is what he wants. We know we've identified you as that. Now all of a sudden it's like, yeah, we'd still quite like you to come and be part of the squad, but Gravenberg's boss, mate. So I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it's a really hard conversation.
From important first teamer
exactly.
to squad rotation player in the contract.
Fringe player.
Same contract as last time. Yes, exact same terms. What's this? Backup player? What?
Exactly.
Yeah. And also in 6 months' time, you've got a Stefan Bajcetic conversation as well. There's a squad player potentially coming back to the club.
That fascinates me, that conversation. Honestly,
done that, by the way.
It does, and it's so odd. There's talk about him now heading to Las Palmas. So a fortnight ago, he was off to Betis. Yeah. Then it was sort of announced last week that he was going to be staying at Red Bull Salzburg, and now he looks like he's back to Spain, but this time in Las Palmas. I can't put my finger on what's happening there, because we all sat around tables in various iterations 2 years ago, whatever it was, saying second coming of one of the best midfielders we've ever seen here. Like, the fella's a genius. Like, he's only 18 years old, able to drop into a dysfunctional midfield, I think it's fair to say at the time, one that ran out of legs, and he was an absolute standout in it. And all of a sudden, one bad injury, don't get me wrong, which kept him out for a long time, and we're questioning where his next loan move is.
That might just be a career-defining injury, and that might be what we're waiting to understand. And that was the feeling.
Because he is the profile. Sorry,
of course he is.
I've seen people last week saying like, "Oh, he's more suited to Klopp's system." I didn't see that.
Again, I don't see, and it's been a while since we've really seen him play, of course. But what Gravenberg is doing in that role, I've seen Bajcetic do.
Same.
That, like, open your body up and turn into danger, turn people and take it in small, take it into small spaces and do that. But it can also play more advanced and can also play centre half as well. He feels like that you own the answer to that problem, but sometimes that happens with new managers, and they're looking around and they're thinking, what can I move on, and what can I shift to make things happen? And it might just be that they've got an eye on, I don't know who it is, like someone is there on the top of the list, and they're like, we can get him in the summer. It does mean that we're going to miss out on Bajcetic, but this guy's going to come in and be ready from minute one. Whereas Bajcetic, we've got a 21-year-old playing DM. There's a 19-year-old now out on loan. Do we want someone who's 24 instead? Who's the actual, the finished art? A bit like Tonali joining, Newcastle.
Dotted lines, isn't there, to Brighton with them registering some interest in Elliot, do a deal with Belieber. There's a dotted line in there somewhere.
I think Gravenberg is the answer It's who's the backup. That's my only question mark.
And how do
here.
you sell that role to somebody?
But it's doable because of what we are and what we're competing
They've
for
got
and
to
the
play
minutes
in
that
two
are available.
positions for me. They've got to be able to do McAllister's job as well, I would say. Because that's the only way you get in. I don't think specialists are tough because, again, game time is hard to come by. And this is the problem with Trent, because Trent's been the best right back in the world, basically, for his entire career. And I'm not saying Nico Williams could have gotten to a higher level, but he's obviously a good level, but there was no way he was getting his development time. It was Solanke couldn't get his development time because he had Roberto Firmino in his prime ahead of him. You've got an issue there with, you might just have to keep buying backups for Gravenberch because he's that good. So your next buy might actually not be a 23-year-old future Ballon d'Or winner because you already own a 21-year-old future Ballon d'Or winner.
Absolutely.
It might need to be who's the next Endo who can come in and do it, or is there a kid, Stefan Bajcetic, you can come in and step up. Interesting chat. Couple of super chats. Nigel sent in 10 quid and said, Greg's pasties on me, lunch. That sounded dirty somehow, or maybe it was just in how I said it.
I think it's how you said it.
Lunch. And Howdy, it's David, who was responsible, one of 3 of our wonderful Legend tier subscribers who dropped some prezzies off for us last week. Said, lads, we're the best club in the world. With Chiesa in his current role, let Slot do his thing. It's clearly working. That's a good point. There is this on this whole thing.
But if we just said that about every topic, we'd have no show.
I know, yeah, we wouldn't have a show, that's true.
So we're saying,
Slot's fine, it's working, crack on.
5 minutes of Chiesa every week. Just keep doing that. That'll be a development. Just one more minute in every subsequent performance will get him to around the 25 minutes to half an hour roll by the time the Champions League final rolls along, and I'm all in on Chiesa off the bench winning us the
Oh my
European Cup.
God, do you imagine?
He's got something in him, by the way, in terms of a moment. There's a moment there to be had.
He's got the determination, the desire. He's a winner. You can see it.
No, I mean, like,
It's just like he's made out of Lego in it at times.
That's sad, yeah.
There's a winner coming.
Yep, indeed. Okay, cool. We'll be back on the podcast next week. If you need more from us, then do head over to redmenplus.com. Use the code BIASED to get a month of Redmen Plus for just £2. That's videos, that's podcasts, that's the huge archive of documentaries and interviews and all the amazing stuff Dan's doing on a week-to-week basis with expert insights and all that good stuff. So yeah, come and have a little feel around, try it on, see if it suits you. For just £2 is absolutely sound. And I need to check that it's actually going to do this, but at 4:00 my weekly vlog from last week is coming out as well, where I went pitchside at Anfield ahead of Football Focused at LFC TV. I had a good chat with Becky Davis as well on her top 3 moments covering Liverpool, and loads more besides. That's over on Mates TV. Guys, thank you. Been an absolute pleasure. I'm going to see you again the second we stop the show. So more goodbye to you watching at home. We'll see you next week.
Up the top of the table, Reds.